guys, and welcome back to Automation, the car company tycoon game. More specifically, the Kill Rob Fastest Car in the World challenge that we started off last time. If you haven't seen that episode, I'd strongly recommend you actually go and watch it so that you have some idea of what's going on. For those who have watched it, let's recap what happened last time. We built the fastest car in the world in 1946 with a mind-boggling top speed of 160 miles an hour. It sold incredibly poorly, was horribly unreliable, and lost us about $150 million worth of money. And so here we are in 1955 designing the follow-up. So our aim this time is for our flagship model to reach 180 miles an hour top speed, and the rest of our trims to reach 153 miles per hour. So this is going to be a big challenge. So without further ado, let's go ahead and have a look at the design of our newest car. We're using a very similar setup to last time due to our engineering familiarity, so let's have a look at our design. So here we are, back with the final design. As you'll notice, we've used a very sleek but not very sporty looking body, and the reason for that is obviously aerodynamics. We've got to get to 183 miles an hour with an inline 4 in 1955, so this was the sleekest body I could find, despite being not very sporty. So let's get back on with the engine, inline 4 again. This time the body is a little bit smaller than last time, so we're going to struggle to fit in a maximum size engine, so I'm just bumping these numbers up to the largest they can be while still fitting. Again, we're going to go with dual overhead cam, 4 valves, cast iron head, all of that sort of stuff that we're familiar with from last time. No point going with aluminium, we don't really care about lightness. So last time you'll remember that in my R&D section I had 1 point in the bottom end, and I also attached a Forge Works to my engine factory, which was a bit premature. But as you can see now, we can really reap the rewards of this decision, because we can use fully forged internal components, which is going to be really useful when running an engine with a 120mm stroke. Obviously, again, all standard components. We've got DCOE carburetors this time as well, which is going to be a massive boost to the airflow we can get into the engine. Again, tubular engine, a little bit bigger, we're expecting a little more power out of this. So let's just see what numbers we get. That's that 218 horsepower, that's not too good. I'm sure we can get a bit more out of this. Obviously, with the increased internals, the increased quality of the internals, we can rev quite a lot higher this time. So we're probably looking at, 5,000 RPM, something along those lines. So going back through now, obviously we've got quite a lot of octane rating to play with, about 9 octane? Yeah, I think that's about right. So we can up the compression, put in some more ignition timing, all of that sort of good stuff, get us some more power out of this thing. All while being able to rev that much higher because of our new fancy forged internals, which are probably going to cost us a small fortune. Once again, just tuning the exhaust a little bit to maximise the power. Again, no muffler, because, if you're going to buy this world record beating car, you're going to want people to know when you drive past. I think we're going to up the compression a little bit more even from what we're already at, up to 10.6, which is a mind-bogglingly high compression ratio for 1955, thanks again to our nice new internals for the engine. And then we're just going to tick up a little bit more ignition timing. So we're going to get about 250 horsepower out of this engine, which is really impressive for an inline 4 that can't even be maximum size. But again, you'll probably have noticed 250 horsepower, not a lot to try and get us all the way up to 180 miles an hour. So we're really going to have to work on streamlining this thing. Maybe we're going to have to take out a little bit of cooling, so it's going to be, again, probably quite unreliable. But having said that, the engine, 17 reliability points, really not bad for an engine that is going to push us towards the world record top speed for this era. So we're just going to put, obviously, a gearbox in. 4-speed again, we're quite familiar with that from last time. Obviously we're going to crank up the top speed because we need to be a bit higher than last time. No differential, probably not needed, we don't really care how it corners. Again, some tyres to help limit the wheel spin that we're going to get, trying to put 250 horsepower through tyres that are only 155 millimeters wide. That's going to be a That's going to be an interesting one. Just adjusting the offset so that we don't get a tyre peeking through the bodywork. That's never something that you want to see. Now, braking is going to be much improved this time because we've unlocked 2 shoe drum brakes for the front, so we might actually have a chance of stopping this thing this time. Last time, obviously, I put almost no effort into the brakes. Probably should have put a little bit more, might have improved the drivability a little bit, but you know, you live and you learn, don't you? I just briefly skimmed through the aero screen. There's not really much aerodynamically we can do in the 1950s, so I just left that as is. And again, with the interior, just keeping that as standard as we can for now. We can always improve on that later when we know what demographics are going to buy this thing. In terms of suspension tuning, I'm just trying to get maximum drivability out of this thing. Very few of the demographics that are going to buy this actually want really, really sporty handling, because, you know, you're going to be fast enough. You really don't want to be on the edge when you turn around a corner as well, so just tuning for maximum drivability here. So we're pretty much done for a first tune. Let's see how fast this thing will go. 170 miles per hour. That is 10 miles an hour short. We're going to have to really find some speed here. So we're just improving the quality of our aerodynamics up to 5. That's found us a couple of miles an hour, but I think we're going to have to resort to taking some of the cooling out, shall we say. This is not going to be a reliable car. We're also going to try and find a few extra horsepower. That's going to be really, really useful. So just increasing the stroke of this engine a little bit. Obviously this is going to cost us reliability, but at the end of the day these cars aren't about being reliable, they're about being fast, so I think we can take that gamble. So there we go, we've added about 6mm onto the length of the stroke there. That's tanked our reliability down to about 11 now, but again, it really doesn't matter, and we found an extra 10 horsepower. Upping the cam profile as well. Ideally you wouldn't like to do that, we're losing a lot of drivability doing that, but again, we just found 15 horsepower by doing it this way. And that's really going to count when trying to get up to 180 miles an hour. Well, I've been saying 180 this whole time, haven't I? I actually mean 183, you know, just to add that little bit of extra challenge. And just a final bit of exhaust tuning just to make sure we're maximising it. There we go, you know, another 4 horsepower. Every little helps. So now we're finally just going to up the gearbox top speed again. We'd let it slip a little bit far down, so just push that up. And then we'll just go through and see how fast we go this time. So what's that going to be? 182.7, so close. We're just going to have to find those last 0.3 maybe by taking the cooling a little bit further down. We're really going to suffer on the reliability with a car that can't run at top speed for long without breaking down because of an overheating engine. But, you know, it's what we've got to do. At the end of the day, it's only got to get to the top speed once to be a world record, hasn't it? So now we're just going to do a little bit of basic tuning just to see if someone will actually buy this. As you can see from the demographics screen this time, people actually want to buy this world record car. I guess because we've got our reputation out there with the last model. People know that we're here, we're unreliable, but we're fast. And some lunatics actually want to buy these things. So I'm just going through, changing the interior, doing up the brakes just to make sure that I maximise the desirability of this car for those groups of people. So just a last bit of min-maxing and a quick check to check that we actually are selling to somebody, and there we go, there's our world record car. We're also really going to be helped out in the coming decades by the emergence of a new supercar category, so people actually want to buy ridiculous cars these days. Anyway, on to our slightly less powerful, still has to go at 153 miles an hour, sort of car for the people, shall we say. So this one is slower, more drivable, and is probably the one that's actually going to make us the money. So here I'm just going to detune the engine a bit, try and get that torque curve a little bit flatter to improve the drivability and indeed the reliability. So hopefully we're actually going to make a car in this GT model, as I've called it here, that will be able to drive for most of the time without blowing itself to pieces. So I'm just going to briefly mention the naming scheme I've chosen for these cars. The original and last ever Duesenberg world record beating car in real life was called the Model SJ. So continuing that theme, my 1946 car was the SSJ, and now in 1955 we've got the SSSJ. Obviously no prizes for guessing what's coming up in later years. So now that we've got our detuned engine, we're just tuning this for maximum drivability. We really want to get people in this car and driving around in it every day, increase our reputation, and actually selling some of these things. So again, putting a little bit of effort into the brakes as well, just to try and get this thing to stop eventually. To be honest, it's quite an improvement. We've got a braking distance there of 40 metres. I believe the one in 1946 was well over 50. So, you know, we're breaking new ground on the safety front. So there we go, just doing our last few things to maximise our desirability for the convertible sport market. It's actually quite a large market back in 1955, so that's really good. We want to be really targeting them to get our sales driven through. And as you can see, we're up above 90 desirability now. I think closing in on 95. So this has the potential to be a really good seller if the market and the economy is treating us okay. So I guess it's actually time to get these two cars built. Obviously this time we're not going to have to worry about building new factories, which is quite nice. We can use the ones we set up last time, so that's going to be a big cost saving. So all we really want to focus on is trying to get these to the market as soon as possible and get rid of our old ones that aren't selling, replace them with these shiny new desirable cars. 183 miles an hour for our world record one, both of them desirable to at least somebody, so hopefully this is the time that we make some money. And there we go, break even in 1964, a huge improvement over our last effort. And on to our final challenge for this episode. Obviously, we've got this fantastic new car set coming up. It's going to sell in huge volumes, hopefully, but it's coming out in 1959. It's going to take us 3 years, or 4 years to engineer. And if you have a look at our money each month, it's only going down and down and down. So, fingers crossed, we survive until February 1959. Otherwise, the world will never get to see the model SSSJ, the 183 mile an hour wonder. So here we are, guys, 1959. I think we've made it. Only one more month to survive. We've got 33 million in the bank. And joy of all joys, the luxury market is booming. Right as we're going to throw out this new car, it's the market has just exploded. It's going to be wonderful. All of our demographics are growing. They've all got more money. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to get so many sales. And there we go. Into production it goes. Let's see what our sales are like. Oh, this is already great news, guys. We're selling about 300 a month of our GT. We're selling a very few of our world record cars, but that doesn't really matter. We're only trying to sell 100 of those. The GT cars are the real money winners, and we're already selling them like hotcakes. We've got 1.6 shifts going, and all of them are being sold. This is wonderful news. As you can see, guys, the cars continue to sell well, almost 300 a month. And also, we're just about to have a look at the economy in a minute. The economy is absolutely booming in the luxury market. We're seeing huge growth right in time for this car. And if you look at our monthly money, it's going up every single month. So we're up to 80 million now that we've just sold all of our old cars for scrap. So things are looking up for us. So here we are, guys, 1960. I think I'm going to fast forward through most of the sales. I'll just pause if I see anything interesting, I'll talk you through it. But other than that, I'll see you in 1964 when we're going to design our next model, the SSSJ. we're just going to stop here in 1991, guys. As you can see, the market's dropped a little bit. We were up on a high, but now we've dropped down a little bit. Hopefully it won't dip too far, otherwise this could be the end for us. I'm back again 1 year later, and having a look at the market, it seems like it's not going to be too bad. We took a little bit of a dip, but it seems to be holding steady for now. And here we are finally, guys, 1964, the end of the road, at least for now. We'll design our next car in the next episode, the 1964 model. Doesn't have a new top speed to beat, still 183 miles an hour, but our lower models have to beat a higher top speed, so that could be an interesting challenge. As we can see, just having a final look at the economy, we've had a second huge boom, especially in Gazmir. It's going to be really great when we hit 1970 and we can start selling to those guys, because their market is just so much bigger than ours. But yeah, so for the foreseeable future, these cars are going to continue to sell well. We'll design our next model in the next episode. So until then, guys, goodbye.